All right. Welcome to the Live Martial podcast. I'm your host, Dave North-Martino. Okay, so we're doing a podcast. This is going to be episode one. Just like it says in the title, Live Martial is all about living your life as a martial artist. So, as we said, live martial. Live martial. We're going to talk about living as a martial artist instead of as a hobbyist or as an activity, right? As an activity that we do 2 times a week. And there's nothing wrong with this. There are people, and you know, if you're a teacher, there are people who come in and this is what they do. They come into your class and they take your class, and then they go home and they forget about your class. And then they go to work or school the next morning. And then the next night they do whatever they do. And then the next morning they go to work and or school and they say, "Oh, I have martial arts. I have karate tonight." Or whatever it is, whatever style that you're studying. They have a martial art class. They have to get to it. They get back home, they grab their stuff, they go to class, they trained for 45 minutes today instead of, what it was, an hour and a half, 2 hours. They do a 45-minute class and they jump in the car, on the train, whatever, public transport, whatever they're doing. They go home. Maybe they walk today. Nobody walks today. And they go home and they don't think about martial arts until the next session. So that's really what I'm getting at. So I want to go over, and you can go over this with your students, or you can think about it if you don't have students, if you're a martial artist working your way up into martial arts. I want to talk about how to make martial arts a lifestyle because it's a passion. It's not just something we do for 45 minutes. It's something that we do throughout our lives. So I made some notes and I figured I'd talk about some of this stuff. And I think you could kind of identify with it. If you've subscribed to this channel, you can. You can definitely you'll be like, yes, this is correct. And if you have any other thoughts, if you're watching directly on YouTube, then leave me information in the comments. Yeah, comment, tell me what you think. Let's have a discussion about this. Okay. So, and in so doing, we're also going to talk about what sets us apart when we're not the people who just look at martial arts as an activity. What sets us apart? Well, one of the things, right, about having a lifestyle, live martial, right? Having a lifestyle as a martial artist instead of having a hobby, having a passion as a martial artist. One thing that we do is that when we come home from a class, a private lesson, uh, maybe a solo training, as we've learned something about ourselves and about what we're doing through solo training as well. And whatever it is, maybe we've gone to a seminar. One thing we do typically when we get home is we write notes. And we write a lot of notes, not just technique, although technique is important. And today, we have today the ability to get video and audio and books, and we can get things for free and we can get things for, a decent price. Back in the 1980s and early 90s, video cassettes, which is what we were getting for the most part, were expensive. And you had to buy them out of a catalog and you had to wait weeks, might wait a month for it to get there. Now we can go onto YouTube or wherever and we can get all sorts of information very quickly. Some of it good, some of it not so good, but we can get that information and then we can try to parse it and try to figure out, is this good or not? But back then it was a little bit harder. And even notes were much more important then. But still, writing down the names of techniques so that you can look them up later writing down sequences, writing down impressions, how you feel when you do something, writing down how you felt when somebody took you down, the way you're balanced, the way you lost your balance, or anything like that. But also dojo history. I had a teacher once who said that we really should keep a, a, a document, create a document on the history of the school, starting from when the school started. Because, you might be lucky, you might be in a school that has been around for 20 years, 30 years. There's a lot of history there, maybe 50 years. It's amazing that a business like that, because that's what a martial arts school really is today, it's a business. And it's amazing that it's stuck around so long. It's incredible. And all sorts of things have happened. Maybe the teacher started out in a garage. Like my original teacher started out, Grandmaster Anthony Gould started out in a garage. And there are stories told about how they would train barefoot on the cold concrete, and then they would use kerosene heaters, and those heaters would suck out all the oxygen. So the 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 air was warm, but you couldn't breathe, and the concrete of the garage was freezing. Right. So these are just fun and interesting things to know, but also writing down who you trained with, because some of those people won't be around forever. They'll be around for 3 months or whatever. But writing down who you trained with, your training partners, what happened, the interesting things that happened, the stories told by your teacher or by upper level black belts or senior members of the school. What are the stories that they're telling? These are interesting things, but keeping notes and it just the act, I should say, the act of taking notes cements a lot of this stuff in your mind. When I do videos, a lot of times I talk about referring to my notes, but many of my notes are up here. See, I took the notes, but I don't necessarily have to go back and look at notes. Sometimes I do. But many times I think about something and I work with it a little bit and I go, okay, that's what it was. And then I'll do a video. So having these notes can cement all this stuff, all this information that you're getting in your mind. Really interesting stuff. We could talk about that forever. So another thing, so let's go to something very simple and something that I'm not very good at. No, I'm going to be honest here. I'm not very good at it. Diet. Yes. What you eat is important. It's important to your training. How much you eat, when you eat things, and it can just be as simple as when you're going to a martial arts school. And we're going to talk about this too, because this includes like hydration, which is important. But sometimes you go and you take a seminar and you take like a crazy 6-hour seminar and it's hot and you're drinking water and something happens if you're not careful, right? If you're staying hydrated, which is important, and maybe you're not using sport drinks, maybe you are. But I remember back in the 1980s when we finally were allowed to drink water, because there was a thing called water discipline, and you were expected to go 2 hours without drinking water. That was just part of the discipline of the training. And it might be why I've had kidney stones, and later in life. But this was a thing, and I think it stopped at some point when I think it was a cadet at a police academy, or a few cadets at a police academy ended up dying, and then they changed everything. So I won't go too far into that, but what happened was we were given water, right? And we had like these the gallon jugs, right? In US gallon, right? Not liters. And we get a gallon jug, and we get a little small little bathroom cup, and we pour it and we drink it. And I remember one of the upper level black belts telling me, don't drink too much, you're going to get cramps. And I'm like, I'm thinking about what my mother told me about, not eating before, swimming, because you would end up with cramps, right? But that wasn't it. What happened to me once was I was at this like major seminar in heat. There was no air conditioning, and we were training all this time, and all of a sudden I got cramps in my thighs, my calves, whatever, and they were very painful. And I was like, oh, and I didn't think, I wasn't thinking about it, that you need like saltines or something. You need a little salt, because I was just drinking regular water. And so I flushed out all the salt from my muscles and I got cramps. So this is important. If you don't hydrate enough, you can get cramps too. My doctor was telling me that. And you end up with cramps. So you need plenty of hydration, but you need the right types of food. And bodybuilders do this. And this is always very interesting. They will sit down like on a Sunday and they'll cook all their food, and they'll figure out their micros and their macros and whatever they're doing. And they'll plan it out, and they'll put it now, in their phones and their planners and their food journals or whatever. And they'll and that's how they'll eat. And they'll eat the proper amount of protein and carbs and all that stuff. And that's important. And so being mindful that when you eat, that is part of the training. That is part of the training. There's a lot more to go into that with this. Supplements. What supplements do you need? What don't you need? You can test out these things and figure out what works best for you. Maybe eating in an anti-inflammatory way. You can look into that. But being mindful of that and saying, what I eat, that's part of the training, right? That's part of the training. It's not separate. The supplements, taking supplements, hydration, sleep. We'll go to sleep now. Sleep is important. If you don't have enough sleep, your body cannot heal. It cannot grow. It cannot get stronger. And so that's extremely important. When you sleep, sleeping is part of the training, and being mindful of that. This is all part of living a martial lifestyle. It really is. We could go into meditation and hypnosis, meditating, reading philosophy as you meditate, or before meditating. We used to read the Tao, right? My teacher way back in the 80s, he would read a passage or two from the Tao as we meditated. And in our meditation in the beginning was just deep breathing, right? Just focusing, pushing away all the problems of the day so that you could train properly. But meditation, whether in class or outside of class, because sometimes they don't do it inside class now because some people consider it religion and they don't want to bring that in, or it's against their religion or whatever, but you can meditate at home. You can do deep breathing to prepare yourself to train. You can slow down your breathing to relax. If you're okay with alcohol, you can have a drink to relax afterwards, because I know I would go and I'd go train for a couple hours, just the last school I was at, I would train for 10 hours, 10 hours, right? No, I trained for a couple hours after working. I'd go to work, I'd jump in the car, drive for an hour, train for 2 hours, drive home an hour. Sometimes it would be more on the way up. Sometimes it'd be 2 hours, depending upon traffic. I'd get home and I'd be like, right? And I'd want to eat something. And I wasn't very mindful of that, like having a snack maybe with me, right? But I'd be tired, but wired. And sometimes maybe having, a drink, 1.5 ounces of something, if you're able to. I'm not, if you have a drinking problem, don't do that. But maybe have some warm milk or some tea or whatever, something to relax so that you can go to sleep, so that you can get enough sleep, so you can get back up, do what you need to do the next day. So that's very important. I wrote training everywhere. And my story with this is kind of funny. So there was one time that I was in Papagino's. Now, Papagino's, if you don't know, because we have people listening and watching videos in many different countries and all around the US. Uh, we have people who are subscribing, and it's great. So they may not know what Papagino's is. Papagino's is just a chain pizza place. And there's something weird that I do when I go into restaurants. Oh, yes, you're going to get the dirt now. And so I had to use the bathroom, and I came out, and I went to my wife. I told my wife, I said, honey, I said, I like the bathroom here. And she's like, you do? And I said, yes, it's a great bathroom to train in. And she's like, what? And she thought she had heard everything with me, right? Because I'm crazy. She thought she had heard everything, but I'm like, you train in the bathroom? And I'm like, well, there's a mirror in there. See, you close the door, you lock the door, you walk up to the mirror, right? You do a couple techniques, maybe some chain punching or, some, you don't do it very loud. You do it quietly. Maybe do a crane stance or so, stand on one foot, work on your balance. Then you use the facilities, wash your hands, dry them, do a couple more techniques, and then you go back out, right? It doesn't take very long. It takes only a few seconds to do that. But she was like, huh? I said, yeah. Doesn't everybody do that? Oh, I guess they don't. I guess they don't. I guess it's crazy, right? It's insane. But yes, I do that. I do train wherever I can. And I've known people who train, opening doors. They'll move in a certain way so that when they're opening a door at work, they're working a certain technique. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do so that you bring the stuff in here. So we're talking about that. We're talking about EDC, right? EDC, everyday carry to prepare to win through life. We have a thing, and people have where they carry things on them. So there's a lot of things you can have on you. You have to know what you can carry and what you can't. Carrying a knife is important, and I'm just talking about for a tool. Just being able to cut rope, open boxes, do basic things. Having maybe a multi-tool on you or a Swiss Army knife, like MacGyver, right? But all of that stuff, having a flashlight on you, so that, and you might be like, well, Dave, I'm coming home. It's still going to be daylight. Yeah, but something may roll under a desk and now you can't see it, but you can use the flashlight. And a lot of us have flashlights and stuff on our phones, right? We have them on our phones, but the old saying is, what is one is none, two is one. It doesn't hurt to have the flashlight. It doesn't hurt to have a lighter that you could make fire. I could do an EDC video. So let me know if you'd like me to do something like that. Cause I have I get some interesting stuff with that, but you can carry things on you. And some of it is going to be for defense of yourself and your family and those around you. And some of it is just going to be because something may happen and you might need it. You may need to have a poncho in your car, or if you're taking public transportation, in your backpack or something like that, right? Or if you're walking, who walks anymore? Right? But whatever you're doing, there are things that you can have on you so that if you miss that weather report, oh, well, I have a hat, I have sunglasses, I have a poncho, I have galoshes, right? I have what I need so that I can be comfortable, right? I have extra stuff. Oh, I have a protein bar so that if I need something to eat, I can eat. It's important. And it goes beyond just having weapons. You get weapons, you get bushcraft survival, you get all that stuff. I wrote horseback riding skills. Maybe for a lot of us, we don't have horses around all the time, but if you're around horses, um, it might be important. I don't know why I wrote that one down. Offensive and defensive driving skills, right? Like the Scotty school. You could actually take a course, right? And we all know, and I probably wrote it somewhere here, but we're talking about awareness, being aware of your surroundings. That is part of the training. Carrying what you need on you, being able to offensively and defensively drive if you need to. That's part of the training. And a lot of people, you find yourself, you're out in traffic, you're commuting to work or whatever. Those skills sometimes can come in handy, right? Keeping little things like keeping your car locked before you get out of your car, looking around, making sure there's nothing bad going on, seeing if there's anybody creeping around, right? These are important things to keep in mind. And it's all part of the training. Ukemi, right? We're talking about rolling and break falling, and that's in so many different arts, right? You find it in judo and aikido and hapkido and jujitsu and everything. And usually it finds its way into even some of the striking arts. Slips, trips, and falls are the biggest biggest hazard for people. We had a guy come in, one of the places I was working, one of the security companies, and he talked about that. And he got, he was very adamant about it. And he was like, slips, trips, and falls. And he was like over the top about it. And people laughed. He's like, this is not a laughing matter. Slips and trips and falls create lots of chaos. And it does. You can really get hurt. And the older you get. So understanding how to ukemi means to receive the ground. I'm not a Japanese, a fluent Japanese speaker, but that's what I've been told, to receive the ground. Uke, right? Ukemi. So you're learning how to fall or move and not get hurt. And there's other ways to perform ukemi, but a lot of it is rolling, break falling. I have slipped on ice and used the ukemi that I know to save myself. I got wet, but I did not get injured. These are things that are important. And I know people who can, roll down stairs and do all sorts of crazy stuff. And being able to do ukemi, doing rolls and break falls, is really more important than being able to punch and kick, because you're going to deal with more slips and falls and stuff. So in your life, right? You will. Things like keeping a fire extinguisher in the kitchen. I tell people, and we have people again from all walks of life, and I don't want to get into the politics of this. In the United States, we can carry firearms in most places, not everywhere. And to me, carrying a firearm when I do is like a fire extinguisher, right? I'm not hoping that there's going to be a fire in my kitchen, but I keep a fire extinguisher in the kitchen so that if there's a grease fire, I can put it out, hopefully. Right. I have the opportunity, try to put it out. If I can't, then I get out of the house and I call 911. Right. But I have the fire extinguisher there. So having a fire extinguisher to save yourself and your family from bodily injury, to try to stop the fire, that is, again, another thing, part of the training. You're going to part of the training. Emergency plans and code words. These things are part of the training. Having a plan of where you're going to be if there is a fire in the house. Having code words so that you can let somebody know if you're in trouble, but you can't talk. That's part of the training. See, it's not just about going to a school and, punching a heavy bag, kicking tie pads or whatever. It's not what it's about. Holistic self-defense, holistic self-protection. So I did write awareness, being aware of your surroundings. That goes with mindfulness. I mentioned it before, hypnotism, but self-hypnosis. Thinking about self-hypnosis, thinking also about visualization, because when you visualize something, I know they've done studies of for athletes that visualizing actually can even be better than practicing. I'm not saying you don't have to practice, you do, but usually before bed, like when I'm lying in bed and trying to fall asleep, I will run forms and different things through my mind so that, and that helps me to fall asleep. But it also makes me a better martial artist. So visualizing, maybe you can't train today. Maybe you got injured. Maybe you're, driving somewhere. Maybe, you're on the bus. I do this a lot in the dentist chair. I'll sit and while they're doing work, the dentist is doing work, and I'll visualize doing whatever technique or form or whatever, and I'll run through those things. And it's the same thing with self-hypnosis. My dad, made a tape, real like a cassette, right? Where he did a self-hypnosis thing so that everything that he learned in martial arts, that was his self-hypnosis tape, he tried to program into him that he would be able to just perform anything that he had learned or saw perfectly if he was in need. And so you can do stuff like that. You can do audio recordings, you can get hypnosis tapes, pouring this stuff into your brain. This is all part of the training. Flexibility, being flexible, stretching, and being flexible in your mindset. You can bring that in. And what you should be doing too is taking these principles and these concepts and bringing them into your life and trying to make them work in other ways that are outside of the combative realm. Because again, this isn't just about punching and kicking and grappling and all this stuff. It's about being able to do better things in your life. Weight training and cardio and running, all these things can be added in as you have time to the best of your ability. And it's all part of the training. Lifting weights it's not a separate thing. Running, not a separate thing. It's all part of the fight game. And it's all part of living martial. Live martial, right? To talk about, JKD being, the intercepting fist, the art of the intercepting fist, or the way of. How do you do that verbally? Thinking about stuff, how to intercept somebody's, before they say something in a meeting or they're attacking you in a meeting. How do you intercept what they're saying and reverse it on them? See, these are interesting things, like verbal judo. Wearing the right clothing for the right situation, making sure that they used to have the action jeans. They brought them back. Century did, with the gusset and stuff. But truly, I mean, I know people think martial artists are nuts. They're like, why do you need kicking jeans? Well, you might have to kick somebody. So why wouldn't you have kicking jeans? That sounds normal to me, but to normal people, it does not. But making sure that you're wearing clothing that you could fight in, and clothing that's appropriate for the environment, so that you have layers or whatever, so you don't end up in a situation where you have hypothermia. Right? These are all important things. So listen, this is just some things to think about. Right? This is just some stuff that I'm giving you to think about. A whole bunch of things that you could work on and bring into your life with the mindfulness that you live martial, that this is all part of the training. And you can share this these ideas with your students, if you have students, or with your family, or have them listen to this podcast. It's something that I think will be important because so many people look at martial arts as I run down, I put on my uniform or my t-shirt, my fight pants, whatever it is, and I get my workout and I work on whatever it is, and then there's the rest of my life. But it really is your whole life. Martial arts should be your whole life. It should be integrated. And once it becomes integrated, it will make more sense and make your life so much better. So, did you like this? Do you want to subscribe to this podcast? Do you want to leave me comments? I'd love it. I'd love it. And just like on all my other videos, I say, no matter what you do, just keep training. I'll see you next time. I'm Dave North-Martino for Live Martial, the Live Martial podcast, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening.